So, hi everybody, and welcome to this week's Quantum Alignment Show. We are talking about, this is part 3 of 3, talking about money and human design. And if you haven't caught yet, if you're on Facebook, if you haven't caught my series of articles that I have been posting on Facebook about money and the types, or the types and abundance, I encourage you to go check those out. We've gotten a lot of people have really been giving us good feedback on those articles, and it goes a little bit deeper than what I covered last week and gives you a little bit more information, more practical stuff to do than some of, well, it deepens what I covered last week in the Quantum Alignment Show last week. So go check those out. They're also on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, my Instagram handle is Human Design Karen. That should be easy to remember, Human Design Karen. So go find those articles and those posts and enjoy them so that you can find, again, more information to support you in allowing yourself to really receive all the support that you deserve in the way that's right for you and your type. So today I'm going to be talking about, as I said, part 3 of Money by Human Design. I'm going to talk really fast, but clearly, because as I was going through and putting this presentation together this morning, I realized that there's a lot of stuff that I want to cover. And there, that's actually why I created the Money by Human Design program, because as I was going through this material, and this is a topic that comes up a lot when I do readings for people. This is like one of the big questions that people ask. What about me and money? How do I make more money? How do I have a better relationship with money? How do I have more consistency in my relationship with money? It's not a little question, and it's sometimes a question that if we struggle with, and I know this from my own personal experience, if we struggle with it, it can be terrifying, and it can be disheartening, and even make us question our own value as human beings, which is ridiculous, because your value is inherent in you because you exist, okay? You, as a person who exists, is profoundly precious and valuable, and your value and your worth should never be measured by a number of any kind, whether it's your pant size, I think I wrote about that earlier this week, or how much you weigh, or how much money you make. Numbers don't define humans, okay? Your heart defines who you are, and your human design tells us a little bit more about how you can express your heart out into the world. So I'm going to try to cover as much as I can. As I said, I'm going to jump in here and try to go as fast as I can. Give me a second to get the slides up. Is it showing up, Cindy? Can you tell?
Yes, the slides are showing up.
Yay! Are they moving? That's
yes,
even the next question. Okay, so we're good. All right, so I do want to just give you an announcement. I want to tell you this on the front end because I always forget to tell you this on the back end. We were supposed to close the registration to the Money by Human Design program last night, and we have decided to keep it open for a couple more days. This is our monthly quantum community class, and all of our quantum community classes are open to everyone. We make the tuition we offer the tuition on a sliding scale, so that no one can be excluded from this information, especially this information, because it seems really unfair to me to teach a class about money to people who are probably in some ways maybe having questions about their relationships with money, and then make it not affordable. That's kind of nuts. So I am leaving the registration open until Sunday night. As said, again, as I went through the material today, I realized, I'm so excited about sharing this with you, and there's so much that I have for you to learn, that I want to make sure that you, that you have an opportunity to learn what you need to learn to get yourself into better alignment with money, so that you can really create what you want in your life, so that you can create a life. I came across this quotation the other day on Facebook. It says, sustainability is creating a life you don't want to escape from. I want you all to create lives that you're enjoying so much you don't need to escape from them. All right, so I've done my little spiel. Cindy's going to post the links to the Money by Human Design class if you have not registered yet and you want to be a part of this program. This is all new human design material. We have new content, so if you've taken any of our courses before, that will be in there. I have added, as of today, also a new bonus I am adding the Money by Design program, which is my old human design money course that I created quite a few years ago. When you see the videos, you'll laugh because you'll know how old it is by how I look. But I've included that as a bonus. That's a really great program that goes through the conditioning of all the centers and how that might be influencing the way in which you create with money. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. But before we get rolling in our content, I do have to start with a basic review. I know that some of you, if you've been watching the Quantum Alignment Show for a while, you know, you probably heard this before. If you've been taking any of my classes, you've probably heard this before. But I'm going to review it anyway, number one, in case you haven't heard it before, number two, because it is so important to get this. And it's tricky because sometimes it's a little insidious. Sometimes we forget, oh yeah, there's this creative process happening. And I want to remind it to you, I'm going to remind you of it, and I want it to be on the forefront of your awareness and your consciousness today as we go through this process of talking about how do we create a better relationship with money in our lives. So to do that, we're going to start first by talking about what I like to call the basic quantum mechanics. This is not quantum mechanics according to quantum physicists because they would be rolling their eyes, but this is the quantum mechanics of creating a sustainable life that you don't want to escape from, all right? So to do that, we're going to talk about the building blocks of the creative process, all the different parts of the creative process, and what you're playing with and what you're using when you are consciously creating or deliberately creating what you want in your life, including money and good relationships and health and all that other stuff. The first part, the first building block of the creative process is the quantum field. There is a field of infinite possibility, infinite potential that is the unmanifest reality, and in that unmanifest reality there exists an infinite number of possibilities of what you could be creating in your life. These are non-manifested realities, okay? So your life is a series of what we call collapsed quantum potentials. You have in your physical reality pulled out of this quantum field of infinite potentials, you've pulled in a very set of finite expressions of that infinite field. You want to create something different, you have to learn how to tap into that infinite field and bring different potentials into manifest form into your life. To do that, you have to understand what's in your filter. What are you perceiving that infinite field of potential through? Because we're looking at that infinite field of potential and we're looking at it through a very limited set of eyes. And that's actually not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. And I'll tell you why it's a good thing. If you had too many choices, we already have a huge number of choices. If you had too many choices, it would just be mind-blowingly overwhelming to try to consciously create what you want in your life. It'd be like taking my 9-year-old to the candy store at the Mall of America. There's too many choices, and so what happens is we just get paralyzed. And many of us are already there with already having a limited set of choices, right? You have in your energy field, as part of the building blocks of the creative process, what's called the mental and the emotional body. This is an energy field that carries the imprint of your conditioning. Meaning this is the place where you're storing all your memories of everything that's happened to you. This is the place where you're storing your belief systems. This is the place where you're storing the echoes of your emotional experiences, your emotional traumas, joys, etc. Everything that you've collected over the course of your life as an experience is stored in this energy field. In addition to that, your epigenetic programming, meaning your ancestral memory, is also stored in this energy field that you are actively drawing on as part of your creative process. The next component that we want to look at, and this doesn't really influence the creative process so much, but it certainly is important when we start to look at how do we bring all of this into harmony with the expression of what we really want in our physical reality. Your energy field, sometimes called the subtle body or sometimes called your aura, your energy field is holding a template for what you're about to create in your life, what you have already created, or what you are discreating in your life. Sometimes you might hear this referred to as your subtle body, or sometimes you might hear this referred to as, I said, your aura. Sometimes you might hear this referred to as the morphogenetic field of your life expression. that subtle body template, if you ever go get acupuncture or energy healing, or if you go to a good psychic and she's like, oh, I see you have money about to come to you. She's sensing it in your aura or in your subtle body energy field or in your morphogenetic template. The reason why we want to pay attention to this is that if we start to make big shifts in the mental and the emotional body, meaning if you start changing your mindset, you start changing your belief systems, you start healing and clearing trauma. What we know now from research, and this is actually part of what I'm working on with my PhD dissertation, is that we can stabilize, we have to stabilize those changes that we make, not just in the mental and the emotional body, but also on the energy field or in the subtle body. We use that in the quantum alignment system. We use essential oils and flower essences that we've custom crafted by using human design to stabilize these changes. It's kind of like an energy poultice or a Band-Aid that just keeps new thought forms and new belief systems in place so that if you go out into the world, you get triggered, or the issues that maybe created the default conditioning in your mental, emotional body to begin with, that subtle body stabilization is kind of like a splint that holds you in place where you want to be so that you can keep making those changes on your physical plane as well. So it's like an energy Band-Aid, right? And then, of course, the last component is what we call your manifest reality. This is your life right now, okay? If you want to simplify this, it's going to look very simple. This is my simple kind of slide, okay? You have the quantum field of infinite possibilities, this like huge Rolodex of options that you could be choosing from in your life right now. You have your life right now, the manifest reality you're living in, and the interface there between your life right now and this quantum field is this filter. And this filter basically is the story you hold about who you think you are. So this story is your identity, it's your everything you've done in this lifetime, it's your ancestral memory, it's your human design, that's part of your story. Your story is going to be the filter through which you choose options out of the quantum field. So you want to make sure if you are creating your own reality, as you may have learned if you ever watched the movie The Secret, or if you study deliberate creation, or you do readings about personal growth and development, we say that a lot, I create my own reality. You better like the story you're telling about the I that's creating your own reality, so that whatever you have in that filter is going to be influencing what you create in your manifest reality. So we have to explore, when we look at our relationship with money and the places where we get bungled up and stuck sometimes, we have to explore, who's the you that's creating your reality? Who are you and who are you really? And is this story that you're holding, is it actually a true story? Is it the real story of who you really are? Or is the story you're telling maybe less than the truth of who you are? And do you need to perhaps change the nature of this story so that your story becomes the manifestation of the truth of who you are in your physical reality? Your physical reality, the manifest reality, is hugely malleable. It's so malleable that if you study it on a quantum physics level, it's literally blinking on and off imperceptibly, but it's blinking on and off constantly. Okay, so you're living in a manifest reality that's constantly blinking on and off and can literally shift on a dime. You are not the reality. You're not even the body you're occupying, okay? You're the space in between the manifestations, and that space is consciousness. Consciousness is the rocket fuel that creates. It's the mediator between the subtle body, the mental body, the emotional body, and the quantum field. Quantum physicists know that when we look at subatomic particles and the building blocks of matter, the building blocks of matter actually behave quite differently than matter itself, at least as the way in which we perceive it in our 3D reality. When a quantum physicist is looking at a subatomic particle, they can either measure the movement of the particle, and it moves in a wave form, or they can measure the location of the particle, where it is, but they can't do both at the same time. You can, as I said, you can only measure movement or location individually, not at the same time. Movement, quantum particles in movement, in flux, that's just potential. That's the nature of the quantum field. It's all unexpressed, unmanifested potential. Location, when we can locate where a quantum particle is and measure that location, that becomes manifestation. Your life is nothing but the measurement of located quantum potentials. It's the meaning, the stories we hold about who we are that determines what we make manifest. Your meanings are determined by your conditioning field, your mental and emotional body. It's influenced by your human design. And of course, as you know, your human design contains your code for your life and your soul purpose. And if you want to create what you want in your life, you have to ascribe a meaning that's in alignment with what you want. So you can't want something and have a meaning that says, I'll never have that, and have it manifest in your life. If you have a desire to create more wealth in your life, but you have meanings that say, well, I can't have that, I'm not worthy of that, I don't deserve that, I don't have the education for that, I've never had that in my family before, I don't know how to do that, I don't know how to create that, if I have that, that'll be a huge amount of responsibility, what am I going to do with that? If you've got any kinds of those beliefs, you're going to be out of sync with what you're saying that you're wanting and what you're trying to create. And if you're out of sync, it's going to be very difficult for that to actually collapse as a manifested potential into your physical reality. To be abundant or to have a healthy relationship with money, you've got to have two things in place. The first thing is fundamental creativity, and the second thing is sustainability. So I'm gonna race through this part of the presentation just because there's so much that I want to cover, and I'm gonna really invite you to please, you don't have to take notes. I don't really want you to do that. I want you to just be present to the information. And if you get, something goes zing and you're like, oh, I relate to that, or oh, that makes sense, take the time and give yourself the gift of then going back and reviewing some of this, because a lot of what I'm going to present in this next two sections are going to be contemplations, things that I want to encourage you to really take into an active contemplation with yourself. Go for a walk with these questions, meditate with these questions, journal about these questions, explore perhaps what meanings you might be holding around these ideas. So we're going to start first with talking about fundamental creativity and what fundamental creativity is and why it's so important for creating abundance. Oops, I put that slide there twice. Okay. To understand fundamental creativity, we have to start first by understanding what we call situational creativity. Situational creativity is creativity or ideas that happen in the moment. They are reactive. They're oftentimes based on a reactive response to old stories, old conditioning, old belief systems that maybe you don't even necessarily ascribe to anymore, or at least you don't want to, but they're still there. So I like the term reacting because you're literally reacting out an old story, right? Situational creativity is determined by your conditioning. It offers short-term solutions. So it's like fixing it in the moment. Oh, I'll do this. That's that whole, oh, what is that statement? Managing the fires, putting out, it's just fire management. I don't know, there's some really creative statement and it's like not coming to my head today. So I apologize for that. Taking care of the urgent instead of the important. That's another way of saying that, right? It is finite. A situational creative idea is finite and it comes from the conditioned mind. So it's an option that you're choosing from within the little tiny box of what your very limited logical mind thinks is possible. It doesn't allow for leaps of faith. It doesn't allow for the possibility of something synchronous or magical happening. It doesn't allow for the possibility of the seemingly impossible becoming manifest in your reality. It is the result of thinking, using your brain. Sometimes I call it squishing your brain, trying to squeeze your brain out into an answer. And it is quote unquote reasonable, meaning it is very linear oftentimes in the way in which it presents itself or the way in which you try to manipulate it, all right? Because it's not really presenting itself. It's really something you're trying to generate yourself. Oops. Fundamental creativity is different. Fundamental creativity literally transcends your conditioning. So if you go back to all those little components that I talked about in the creative process, fundamentally creative ideas are ideas that actually allow you to leapfrog over your mental body, your emotional body, your subtle body, even your human design to a certain degree, to transcend all of the past, to transcend your ancestral memory, to transcend everything and go straight to the quantum field and pluck through magic, serendipitous, events, synchronicity, epiphanies, ahas, new ideas, new potentials, new possibilities out of the quantum field. Fundamental creativity comes from infinite source. It comes from beyond yourself and your physical reality. It is imaginative and possibility oriented, and it aligns with cosmic order. When I say it aligns with cosmic order, we are all part of a cosmic plan. We all have the ability and the freedom to follow the cosmic plan. That means live true to your human design or not. You can choose to live against your human design or in spite of your human design, right? But when we live or align with cosmic order, because the nature of cosmic order in and of itself is abundant, it causes us to align with a greater order of abundance, or at least a greater order of what I like to call maybe sufficiency versus abundance, meaning a place where we have everything we need to be the fulfillment of the expression of the story that we are living in. We are by design. If you look at the chart, and I covered this in lesson 1 or the show number 1 when I started talking about this, we are designed by in our chart, everybody's chart. We are designed to be fully supported being who we are. That is the cosmic order. And it's very much like, if you think of, you've ever seen birds flying in murmuration. That's when they fly in this pattern and they're like swarming in this huge swarm, and they're doing all this loop-de-loop stuff, and they're somehow miraculously not bumping into each other, right? Cosmic order is just like that. And we, in and of ourselves as human beings, live in a state of abundant murmuration where we are all moving together synchronistically and in the world in harmony with our full support. It's just learning how to see it and to create it from a different place sometimes. And that means learning how to get beyond your conditioning, get beyond the material world sometimes, and tap into that place where we can tap into a flow of creativity that's bigger than what our brain can sometimes figure out. Of course, fundamental creativity is also by nature unreasonable. It's not logical. It's completely unreasonable. It's that creativity that comes from your imagination, from the expansive nature of you being willing to step into the question, what else is possible for me, and you not feeling like you have to figure out the answer. If you want to become more fundamentally creative and align yourself with the cosmic order of things, the first thing you have to do, and this is hysterically funny on a certain level, it's not funny when you're trying to do it, but we have to learn to allow and surrender. And for whatever reason, that seems to be the most challenging thing that we do as human beings, right? I mean, we're like white knuckling it through the whole way. But when we let go, ironically, what the chart shows us is that not only do we gain access to more abundance, we actually gain access to more power, more life force, more everything, right? When we look at the gates in the chart that are the markers for abundance, and again, if you missed this, this was in the show that I did 2 weeks ago, what we see is that the entire flow of abundance in the chart is receptive. Nothing in this chart says, I'm going to bulldoze my way out and with all the force of my might and will, and the grit of me pulling myself up by my bootstraps, going to make my abundance happen or make money come to me by God. Which is funny because I don't know how it is in other countries necessarily, but certainly in America, we're very much conditioned around that model, right? We have the manifest destiny model of abundance, or, this rugged individualism where we go out and we craft our own future, our own destiny by the sheer grit of our will. That doesn't work for hardly anybody. Maybe for about 4% of the population, maybe half of the manifestors can kind of create that way, but they can't do it sustainably. We're not designed to create that way. And that's why I think we are in an epidemic of burnout in this culture. We are designed to be receptive. And to be receptive, we have to learn how to wait. And that's tricky. And it's tricky to do with grace. It's tricky to do with consciousness and deliberation. But the entire chart, no matter what your type, even if you are a manifester, you have to a certain degree, wait. You have to wait for the right timing for you and your divine inspiration if you're a manifestor. If you're a generator type, you have to wait to respond. If you're a projector, you have to wait for recognition and invitation. And if you're a reflector, you got to wait out the whole 28 days and sometimes a couple of 28-day cycles before you get clarity about what's next for you. That's not because the universe is trying to torture you. It's because the universe is so aligned with right timing and you and your energy that it's going to give you what you want when the timing is right. But we have this material world we live in that starts to, say, well, yeah, that's nice, but by Thursday I got to have this bill paid. So if God hasn't created this or the universe hasn't created this by Thursday, then by God, I'm going to put my grit and will on and go out and make it happen. And sometimes you have to do that. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do to get by. But do it with the awareness that this is what I'm doing to get by while I'm waiting. Okay? Don't settle. Just do what you have to do in the interim while you're waiting. And that's a very subtle but vital difference in the creative process. Because when we start to settle, we go, okay, well, fine, this is all there is. I guess this is my lot, my destiny, my fate. And we surrender what's really possible for us to a compromised fate. We settle, and we close the door to any other possibility because the universe is like, okay, she's settled, she's happy. And then we don't get that next piece. So do what you have to do. Be grateful for, okay, here's my temporary support. But this is just what I'm doing while I wait. That is a very subtle way of being, but a very important way of being. The first thing you have to do to become, well, other than waiting and surrendering, first you have to do to become more fundamentally creative is you've got to decondition. There are 5 kinds of conditioning in human design. I'm going to whip through these puppies super fast. There are various ways that you can learn about these different kinds of conditioning on many of the quantum alignment shows that I've taught before in the past. And I certainly am open to exploring this in greater depth at a future show. But I just want you to see that there are a lot of different ways that we do get imprinted or we do get conditioned to have belief systems or meanings that can limit our allowing and receiving the abundance that's there for us by design. The first kind of conditioning is called openness by center. The second one is called imprinting. The third one is what I'll call generational energy patterns. The fourth one is genetics. And the fifth one is the design crystal. So when we talk about openness by center, and there's a lot of buzz about this in traditional human design. So I really want to be clear about one thing. Most people, very few people are all 9 centers defined. There's a couple of you out there, but you're a rare person. Most of us have open centers. Your open centers are not your enemy. They are the place where you are designed to become wise about what's possible around those energies. So I really want us to get out of the habit of talking about the pain and the trauma of the open centers. That's a cool place in your chart, and it is a part of who you are. Sometimes it's called the not self. It's not you, it's you. You're open. That means you have variability in how you experience that energy. And because you have variability and you amplify energy in your open center, so anything that you have white in your chart is where you have openness. That's where you're taking in information and you're amplifying it. And because you're experiencing it in an expanded way, in a variety of different ways, we oftentimes mistakenly identify with our openness. We think we are consistently the energy that we don't have consistent access to, or we think we are consistently our open centers. But the truth is your open centers is where you have variability, and that variability creates wisdom. But when you don't understand it, and this is energy that comes to you from people and the planets around you, when you don't understand your openness, it can sometimes create predictable behavioral patterns, or what I like to call mistaken motivations, in your relationship with everything, including in your relationship with money. So it can hijack your energy field and cause you to get confused and obfuscate the true story of who you really are if you don't understand how that works. I'm going to go through very light speed, but again, I want you to come back to these questions in a contemplative way after the show. I'm going to go through the 9 centers and some of the ways in which we get conditioned around money in these centers. And again, I just want to remind you that in the Money by Human Design program, there is a program called Money by Design, which is different than Money by Human Design. It's quite a different program. It's just the name is similar, mostly because I ran out of names. I wasn't being very fundamentally creative when I came up with the name for this one. But in the Money by Human Design program, I do go through much more extensively all the 9 centers and what happens to your money consciousness when you have different centers open. So the head center, which is the center for ideas and inspirations, When it's open, there's a tendency for you to take in everybody's inspirations, which is fine and interesting until you try to use other people's inspirations to try to solve your challenges with money. It's also a pressure center, so it creates a pressure on you to try to figure things out. And sometimes that pressure, in order to get out from under that pressure, we come up with ideas, or we get pressurized to try to figure out ways that make us go out of sync with our natural alignment with abundance. So the questions that I want you to explore here is, do the inspirations you have actually belong to you? And secondly, is the pressure to figure things out, especially around money, causing you to be out of alignment with your abundance? Are you moving and going off and doing something else so that when your opportunity shows up, you're not there because you went that way? Okay. The ajna is the place where we do our concrete thinking. This is the place where we also hold data and information, including, by the way, belief systems. So sometimes what happens for us here is we struggle to hold on to fixed ideas. So it's hard sometimes when you have this open to visualize, to be able to stay focused on an intention or an imagination or a goal. And also sometimes when we have this energy, it makes it difficult for us to release old fixed limiting ideas, especially limiting ideas that we might have about our value or about our relationship with money. So sometimes we have limiting beliefs and ideas up here that change the meaning we hold about money and change the way we interface with the archetype of money in the quantum field. The throat center is the regulator for how we use energy. When it is open or undefined, meaning if you're a generator, projector, or a reflector, oftentimes we need recognition to be able to activate our energy. So if you're a projector, generator, or reflector, you may be doing things that are burning you out, trying to get attention so that you can activate your energy to make money. And certainly for all of us, because this is also the regulator of our creative energy. Are you struggling to create money in a way that isn't sustaining your energy? That's incredibly important, because if you are burning yourself out, you are going to struggle with creating money, because the universe doesn't want you to go to work. The universe wants you to take care of yourself and rest. And the universe doesn't have the same kinds of bills that you do, right? So the G center. The G center is the center for love and direction. Primarily, if you have an open G, you're going to question your lovability. If you have a defined G, there's a tendency here for you to question whether you can be accepted for who you are. Either one of these two dynamics, whether you're questioning your lovability or you're questioning whether you can be accepted for who you are, can actually interfere with your ability to receive money, okay, or receive abundance. So you need to love yourself to increase your abundance. The will center, we're going to talk about this a little bit more later. The will center is a center for value. When it is defined, there's a tendency to not rest enough and burn yourself out, mostly because you're overdoing the value piece. When you have an open will center, and that's going to be most of you, you're going to oftentimes be driven to try to prove your value and your self-worth by doing more than what you need to be doing, and by overdoing at times, and again, burning yourself out. There is a direct relationship in the research that I've done with my students, especially when I look at my clients and my students' money and self-worth. There is a direct correlation between the quality of your self-value and the amount of money you're willing to create in your life for yourself or align yourself with in your life. The spleen, as you know, we talked about this a couple of months, a month and a half ago. The spleen is the center for instinct, and it communicates through fear. And when we misinterpret the fear impulses that the spleen sends us, it causes us sometimes to get paralyzed in fears that block us from taking right action. So big question here for you, is there something around your abundance or taking action that would align you with your abundance that is being triggered by fear? And is that fear holding you back from doing what you know you need to do to create alignment or actions that are in alignment with your abundance? The solar plexus, another center we've talked about a lot on the Quantum Alignment Show, and I don't know if Cindy's actively posting links to all these, but if you go onto the Facebook page on the left where it says videos, there's a little tab on the left-hand side. You click on that, scroll through there. I did a whole show on the emotional solar plexus, I think about in January. And I talked about how this is the most creative energy in the chart. This is the regulator for the frequency of energy that we calibrate the magnetic resonance field of the heart with, meaning your emotions condition the heart or condition your magnetic monopole, and how you feel creates a vibrational frequency. That vibrational frequency stimulates the heart, and the heart then begins to attract into your life things that match that emotional frequency. If you're not consciously and deliberately crafting an emotional frequency that is abundant, meaning if you're freaked out, panicked, worried, if you're depressed, despairing, if you're struggling, if you're feeling like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to create money for myself, you know, if you're in a state of emotional anxiety or despair, it's not a very, it is the creative energy. You will create with that energy. There is a process of learning over time to train yourself how to consciously work with your emotional energy. And that's true whether you're defined or open, so that you can sustain and maintain an emotional frequency of abundance. Again, that's already a whole hour-long show. We certainly are going to talk about that in the Money by Human Design program a lot. And we're going to talk about strategies to really activate this center. This is actually, as I said, it's brand new material. We're going to be looking through and exploring all the elemental essences of the gates of the center and how to activate these through consciousness, through inner dialogue, and through ritual to amp this energy center up and clear out aspects of your emotional body. The sacral center is the center for workforce and life force energy. It is the place where if you are a generator type, you are designed to work, do the work that you have responded to, meaning you don't go create out and create it with your head. You wait and you receive the impulse to take the right work when it shows up. Notice that there's waiting there and responding, right? If you have an open sacral, that means if you're a manifestor, projector, or reflector, you have to work correctly. You have to work correctly according to your type. You're not designed to work sustainably. You're designed to go in, do your work, get out. And if you're not working correctly, for all types, if you're not working correctly, you will burn yourself out. And if you burn yourself out, you will block the flow of abundance. The root center, also a pressure center. The root center is under pressure. When it's open, it's under pressure to get things done so you can be free. So oftentimes what happens when the center is open, we're slinging spaghetti like crazy, trying to get out from under the financial pressure, right? Just do this, do this, do this, do this. And then, as I said, when you're doing that, you're oftentimes not in the place where you need to be when the answer gets delivered. You miss the opportunity because you're not there because you're off over here freaking out. If you have a defined root, sometimes it will happen with the defined root because it has to wait for the right pulse. And if you can't afford to wait for the right pulse, or you think you can't afford to wait for the right pulse, then you try to take action that you don't have the energy for, and again, you tend to burn yourself out. The second kind of conditioning is called imprinting. You are imprinted. This is not really human design. This is actually child development and physiology. Your belief systems, the way you watched people behave, the family culture that you grew up in is going to imprint you. It's going to imprint your belief systems and your emotional body. And that imprinting is part of what forms your identity and part of what forms your belief systems around money. You want to be very clear about your family imprinting around money, because if you're not conscious of this, you do run the risk of duplicating your family pattern just because that's how you were imprinted. And that can work for you in some cases, or that can work against you in some cases. None of it, by the way, means it's fixed or doomed. You can always change the way you perceive your belief systems and even your emotional body. But you have to be aware first to know, like, where's it coming from in order to clear it. The other thing that's important just to pay attention to, we do have what I call generational energy patterns. You actually inherit your human design from your grandparents. Your parents inherited theirs from their grandparents. Your children will inherit their design from your parents. So you can see already there's a predictable pattern, intergenerational pattern of each generation having a different perspective on being challenged by certain core energetic issues within the dynamics of the chart. Sometimes the money issues are intergenerational energy patterns. And it's important, again, just to have awareness, because once you have awareness, you can start the process of clearing and changing those patterns. Your genetics are going to influence some of your behavioral traits, including some of the ways in which you behave with money. New research shows that if you come from a family background that maybe has poverty in its history, so let's say your parents grew up, or your grandparents grew up, or your great-grandparents grew up in the Great Depression in West Texas in the Dust Bowl, that conditioning is in your cells, okay? And that conditioning is going to influence how you act with money. And because that's in your cells, by the way, you can clear this. We have techniques, including the quantum alignment system. We now have scientifically valid techniques that can change your genetic programming and your epigenetic programming, which is the protein codes on your genes that actually hold or anchor ancestral memory. That ancestral memory can be cleared using energy psychology techniques, and it can be cleared using even rituals. Shamanic rituals can even clear it. You're not doomed to it, but again, it's good to know where it's coming from. And your design crystal, that's the fifth thing that conditions us. And I'm not going to get into great detail with this. I'm just going to say that your design crystal is the code of information that carries the story that you are living in this lifetime. You're not the story, you're living in the story. You're embodying the story. You're a soul living in this story. The story that you're wearing brings with it its own memories. This story has belonged to the earth and been a part of the earth for a long time, and sometimes the story that we're living in has its own history, and we have to clear this history as well through our actions, through changing our belief systems, through accessing higher levels of fundamental creativity. And again, some of the techniques that we use in the quantum alignment system actually help you reprogram some of the story of the design crystal. It won't change your chart, but it'll change the way you interact with your chart so that you can align with a greater level of sufficiency and abundance. So again, just reviewing really quickly, you have this quantum field of infinite possibility, your life right now, the story you hold about who you are is in the filter, and your conditioning is part of that story. And if the story you're holding isn't allowing you to create what you really want, it's a really good idea to go back and explore where are the parts of the story coming from? Are they actually me? Are they mine? And are there aspects of this story that I can begin the process of releasing and letting go? Knowing yourself, by the way, if you want to become more fundamentally creative, knowing yourself is the best defense. It allows you to not be conditioned again. Staying connected to beauty, well-being, truth, love, and other archetypes that are more aligned with creativity are actually really, really important for staying aligned with abundant energy and fundamental creativity. Trusting yourself and your intuition. Your intuition is actually the way your higher self talks to you, or your fundamentally creative self talks to you. So practice learning to trust yourself and your intuition. And that's a whole nother show we could do at some point as well. Going back to two things you need to do to be abundant. You need fundamental creativity and you need to be sustainable. So let's talk about sustainability. Again, I have been talking about burnout. Last month, I talked about burnout for like 4 sessions, right, Cindy? Yes, so maybe
3 sessions.
3 sessions. So if you want to learn more about being burned out or how to get unburned out, go watch those shows that we did last month. So if you are burned out, and we talked about this all last month, if you are burned out, it will block abundance. Not because the universe wants you to suffer, not because the universe isn't infinitely loving, but because the universe wants you to rest. And so sometimes stuff doesn't come to us because we don't have the energy for it, and our higher self is creating it that way because we know that for us to be able to access what we need to do, our creative solutions, etc., we have to be revitalized. And so sometimes, as counterintuitive as it sounds, resting and taking care of yourself is the greatest thing you can do to make yourself more receptive to abundance. Second thing you got to do is, remember I said, you got to be yourself, know yourself. You want to be yourself and know yourself, because if you're not living true to yourself, if you're letting the conditioned self run the show and you're out of alignment, it's actually going to cause you to leak energy, burn out, and block money. Anytime, here's the third thing, and this is also really, really important. We talked about this when we talked about self-love and lovability in the G Center. Anytime you don't love and accept yourself, including, by the way, what I like to call your warts, okay? All the parts where you think you screwed up, you're blocked, you made a mistake, you're stuck, you're whatever. All those places where we beat ourselves up. If you don't accept those parts of yourself lovingly as well, then we spend a lot of energy trying to protect those wounds, protect those things we're resisting, or we spend a lot of energy resisting those things we're resisting, and our energy loses its sustainability and its resiliency, and it makes it difficult for us to align with abundance. When we look at lovability and where it's sourced in the chart, it's sourced in the G Center. The G Center is also the place where we have the magnetic monopole. That source of the law of attraction lives in this G Center. We calibrate the source of this magnetic resonance field. We calibrate the magnetic monopole, the source of the law of attraction, through these 8 core energies, meaning this: for you to get the most out of your life, for you to attract to yourself a quality of abundance that sustains you, you need to love yourself. You need to feel like you have some kind of control or empowerment in your life. You need to be fully authentic so that you can be making your unique contribution to the world in the way that's right for you. You need to be practicing actively forgiveness of yourself and others, because you have the ability, in fact, you need to redefine the story of who you are every day so that that story is ready to receive a brand new day, and you're not living out and reacting stories from the past every day. For you to calibrate that monopole in the highest possible place, you need to have a deep connection to spirit as source, which means you do need to have some kind of a spiritual practice, the right one for you, but you need to recognize that your individual life is part of the cosmic plan, and that your destiny is ultimately to serve and fulfill your unique role in the cosmic plan. And to do that, you have to know what your place is in the cosmic plan, and you can't do that if you don't have a connection with spirit. You need to be vital, as I've been saying. You can't be burned out, or you can be burned out and be abundant. And for you to up-level yourself to the next level, you have to have the energy for it. And if you're not taking care of your body and yourself, it's going to be difficult for you to tap into what you need to attract into your life to up-level your quality of abundance. You need to be willing to and comfortable with and totally clear from a belief system perspective to allow yourself to be supported. And ironically as it is, I find that learning to let go and let yourself be supported is one of the most challenging things that we have in the chart. It is very difficult for some reason for us to let ourselves be supported by others, by the universe. We have very deeply conditioned around, oh my God, if I'm not doing it for myself, by myself, then it isn't of any value. Let that go. And lastly, but not least, we need to be creating and calibrating our heart with the energy of fellowship and compassion. Research actually shows that when you share, when you give, you actually open the heart, you create a greater state of heart coherence. You actually begin to change your brain. You can actually begin the process of healing some kinds of depression, or at least ameliorating the effects of depression, when you share. When you share who you are and you share what you have. And so when we move into a state of sharing, we actually calibrate the magnetic monopole to attract more into our lives, because the universe loves it when we share. When we share, we get more. Okay? That's why when I structure the quantum community classes, I always give everybody the option to contribute more than the minimum amount, because I know that when you're giving, it's good for you. You feel better. Your heart functions better. You feel good about who you are, and you feel good about what you've contributed to the world. So again, just reviewing this, Your human design is part of your unique filter, including your G center. The more you move yourself into the highest expression of these energies, the more you calibrate your magnetic resonance field to attract in alignment with the cosmic plan and the abundant order of things. And of course, you create more in the direction that you really want. We are happiest and most abundant and most magical in our current awareness when we are creating in alignment with our human design. When we are trying to create something we don't want, something that really isn't true to who we are, it's another way we block money. It's interesting to note that you can compromise, and I've talked about this a couple of times now, when you compromise and you settle for less than what you really want, you actually can block money. When I coach people, sometimes one of the things I have to coach them around is dream bigger. You're stuck because you're not dreaming big enough. You're settling, or you're only letting yourself dream about what you think is possible for you right now from this very conditioned perspective. Sometimes the solution to getting more money is dreaming bigger, allowing for a bigger expression of the truth of who you are and not settling. We block money if we have meanings around money that don't support our abundance. If you want to change your reality, you've got to change the meanings that you ascribe to it. So how do we create different meanings? You can start by going to the quantumalignmentsystem.com. The only reason I'm sending you here is because on that website, there are videos and blog posts all over, particularly if you go to the page that says, what is the quantum alignment system? That's going to start explaining to you some of the steps that you can go through to start shifting some of the meanings that you hold in your life. If we took the entire human design chart and put it in a blender, and we looked at core drivers and archetypes that are vital for you to express resiliency in your life, to be completely abundant and resilient in your life, we would come out with 9 key elements that are crucial for you to have functioning in a high level for you to create abundantly. I'm not going to talk about all 9 because I want to, but I won't, because I know that at a certain point everybody's like, okay, enough, Karen, right? But one of them, and this is the one that I'm bringing up because this is the one that I find is the biggest bugaboo for all of my clients. One of them is self-worth. You are designed to value yourself. It is such a crucial part of the chart that if you don't value yourself, it's actually going to interfere with your ability to allow yourself to receive abundance and money. When I've surveyed my students for the last 2 years. And so every time people complete a class, they get a survey from me, and I ask them a series of questions. And one of the things that has come up over and over and over again, and I've surveyed more than 1,000 people at this point, is that when there is a struggle with your sense of self-worth, there is a direct relationship between lack of self-worth or low self-worth and struggles with money. Money is the physical manifestation of value on the material plane. And our self-worth frequency, the energy we hold around our self-worth, is going to calibrate the quality of the relationship we have with money. If you are struggling with your own value, it's hard for you to confer value upon yourself in the material plane. So the question, another one of these contemplative questions I want you to take with you this weekend is, are you really claiming your value? Are you standing in your value? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you resting enough? Are you nurturing yourself? Are you trusting the universe? Are you trusting that you're so precious that the universe wants to give to you? Are you setting good boundaries? Are you saying no when you want to say no? Are you saying yes when you want to say yes? Are you holding your value at work, in your job? If you have your own business, are you valuing your services enough? Are you doing what you need to do to sustain your value over time? Your self-worth is a vital component to your money. And if those two are out of sync, you got to get the self-worth piece handled. And again, check it out on the quantum alignment system. Learn your human design. Do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to say, oh, the quantum alignment system is the only way. It's not. There's a bajillion different ways for you to amp up your self-worth. I personally don't care what system you use to amplify your self-worth, but I do care that you do it. Because you do deserve to value yourself. You do deserve to live a life that is a reflection of that value. And if you have anywhere along the way forgotten that you are a vital and irreplaceable part of the cosmic plan, and you're not playing your part because you don't value yourself enough, That's not right. You deserve better than that. So I don't, as I said, do whatever you have to do, but get your self-worth in place, because that's going to be the fundamental thing that you can give to yourself to change your relationship with money. Self-worth is primarily associated with the will center. Physically, it impacts the stomach, the heart, the gallbladder, and the thymus gland, which is autoimmune. So if you have anything going on in those areas, you might want to check in on, okay, where am I at with my self-worth? Emotionally, if you're struggling with self-worth, you might feel unworthy, undervalued, or the need to prove your value and your worth. And that in and of itself might be exhausting you. Spiritually, we have a tendency to believe that our efforts, our will, determines our value, and that our value comes from our success on the material plane. And if you listen to a lot of the money mindset, success, blah, blah, blah that's out there, there's a whole lot of mythology around your material worth or your material value in the world being demonstrated by virtue of your effort and your sense of self, not self-worth, but sense of self. And that if you don't have money, it's because you haven't tried hard enough, worked hard enough, blah, blah, blah. That's all crap. That's all crap. The only thing you need to do, the most important thing you need to do, some of you will have to do some work, but you're probably designed for that if that's what's showing up for you. But before you do anything, you got to get the self-worth piece handled. Because if you don't realize that it's your value and your sense of self-worth that is creating on the material plane, you're going to fall victim to a lot of energy expenditure that's going to leave you depleted and unsustainable, and you're just going to go down and down and down the rabbit hole of lack of sustainability. You've got to tackle the self-worth piece so that you can love yourself and take care of yourself better. Your conditioning is also going to influence the meanings that you hold. Your family values, your ancestral memories, your epigenetics around money, suffering, willpower, martyrdom, just to name a few examples, are going to influence the meanings you have. Your design crystal, the story you're living in, might have an old history stored in it of doing things like taking vows of poverty or vows of martyrdom. And your society itself might be conditioning your belief systems around money. We are still working through some old belief systems around money. Think about how it shows up in our material world right now. I don't think that it's a huge argument that the gender role of being female is less valuable collectively, not personally, collectively in our society. And when we look at the statistics around women and money, women make less money than men in the same job. Okay, I'm not talking about apples to oranges. I'm talking about in the same job, women make less money than men. And a lot of it has to do with our societal conditioning. And we need to keep working to rewrite these conditioned patterns because they're not right. Some common limiting beliefs that you might have around money, and I'm just going to read these. And as I read them, I want you to just feel them in your body, or later on, if you print up the slides and you want to just really sit with these and sort of assess yourself. Are these landing with you in some way? I want you just to feel your way through these statements. You have to work hard to make money. Women need a man to support them. You have to be born rich or just lucky to have money. You have to have a college degree to make a lot of money. You're not the rich one in your family. Money is dirty or bad, or it's unspiritual to make money. You can't have money doing what you love. You have to do that on the side. Well, creative people or spiritual people are poor. There's a limited supply of money, and if I earn money, I'm taking it away from someone else, and I feel guilty. Here's some other ones to think about. I'll read them out loud again. Feel where these might be landing in your body. There's no way I'm going to be able to get over my money problem. I don't deserve to have money. I'm not worthy of abundance. I'm afraid to let go of this problem. I don't know what I'd do if my situation changed. Who would I be? I don't believe my money situation can change. I'm actually afraid to have money. I'm afraid to be financially independent. I don't believe I can actually reach my financial goal. Being broke means I have to rely on other people, and then they're going to leave me. Or being broke means I can rely on other people. And if I rely on them, then they can't leave me. I stay poor so that I can get attention or help from my parents. Money isn't really important to me. If you want to start changing the meanings that you have and create a set of meanings that support you in being sustainable, you have to start first by imagining a new possibility, a new story for yourself. That's not the only step, okay? And I can't do the whole process today, but it is a vital first step. So I really want to leave you today with an opening through your imagination, an opening to starting to reimagine some of your meanings around money. What does money mean to you? How do you access money? How can you create more money? Can you allow more money? Is money an awesome thing? Is money a reflection of the preciousness of who you are? Can you use your money for yourself and for others to increase the good that you want to contribute to the world? These are just some things I want you to explore and to begin to dream and imagine for yourself. When you begin to dream and imagine, you actually begin to change the way your brain is hardwired around your beliefs around money. And even though, as I said, this isn't the only step, it is an important first step. Because when you start to change your brain, you also start to change the neurotransmitters you create in response to the thoughts you're having. When you begin to change those neurotransmitter responses, you then begin to change the nature of your emotional energy. When you change the nature of your emotional energy, you change the nature of how you calibrate your heart and the magnetic resonance field of your heart, and you start to change the point of creation in your life. Imagine this weekend how your life would look if you loved, trusted, felt comfortable with, or valued yourself and money. That's where I want to leave you today. Just a quick reminder, if you're ready to really create a big revolution with money in your life, the Money by Design program, the registration will be, I'm holding it open until Sunday night at midnight. As I said, you decide the cost, you pay what you can. I really, really want you in there if you're struggling in any way with anything we've talked about today. It's all new content. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for this. We are collectively who we are because you are who you are. And if you think for any reason that's not worthy of being supported, wipe that off your mind. Wipe that out of your heart. Get that out of your life. Because you are precious, because you exist, and you are worthy of, and you are designed to be fully supported. Thank you for joining me today. Do we have questions, Cindy?
We didn't have a lot of questions come up. Burnout seems to still be a big issue, and
yeah.
But lots of people are saying thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
There was a person that
one.
Well, there was a person that said they really want to learn the tools and techniques that you were talking about that would raise their vibration or help them change the story. And is the Money by Design program going to cover some of that?
Yes, totally. Totally.
I'm sorry, Money by Human Design. I got to do the other. It's like
the name. Yes. Yes.
Or Money by Design 2019. We'll go that way too.
We'll just see the date. We'll use numbers. Yes. Yes. We'll cover that and more. Yeah.
But there was, and actually the very first lesson released today.
Yep. In the very first lesson, the first lesson dropped today. And in the first lesson, we are beginning the exploration of how do we create and how do we change our point of creation. So.
And that I haven't gotten any other questions. Lots of thank yous.
All right, good. Okay,
wait. What do manifestors wait for?
Manifestors wait for their inner alignment with their own divine timing and their own connection with abundance. If you are curious about how does each type connect with with abundance, go to the Facebook page. It's Human Design for Everyone. On the Facebook page, I have a whole series of articles about manifestors, generators. Yes, each type is done there. If you don't do Facebook, you can also go to Understanding Human Design No, never mind. Don't go there yet because I don't think the blog is up all the way yet. So don't worry about that yet. But just go to the Facebook page. There's that. Okay, good.
Yeah, go to the Facebook page or Instagram if they're not on Facebook.
Or Instagram. We posted those on Instagram too.
Theo, you should go to the courses page, or you could email us. We're going to send out an email. And then just really quick, A on Zoom asked, what does the black line on gate 49 mean? If it's colored black in your human design chart, that means that one.
That means,
okay, go ahead.
Yes, that's the gate of revolution. And so that means it depends on what planet it's in for you, but it means that's an energy you have conscious access to. And it creates the theme in our lives, particularly when we're looking at it in the context of money. It creates the theme of either needing to make a revolution or failing to make a revolution. What we oftentimes see is if you have that energy, sometimes you don't stop when you need to, or you don't quit when you need to, or you don't walk away from situations that don't reflect your value when you need to, or you leave so quickly that you don't get to bear the fruits or receive the fruits of what it is you've contributed and created in the world.
We're 5 minutes over, but we did have one more question that came in.
Okay.
Do you want to take the question? Yes. Okay. Yes, it was from Sun. Thank you. The last. Oh well, that made me cry. I needed that. Jen is asking, love the article for projectors. How do I invite others to invite me to have money success?
You don't invite others. You work on your value. You work on your value. And if you have people in your life who are not seeing you as successful and are not holding that value with you, then you walk away from those partnerships and those relationships, which is tricky if it's your family. You know, sometimes we can't walk away from our family or we don't want to. But clean up your environment so that everything in your environment celebrates the preciousness of who you are. There's nothing you can do. You don't need to manipulate anything. Your value and you standing in your value and you keeping your energy sustainable will create the energy for the invitation. But you don't have to do anything. Don't try to figure out how to manipulate it. Take care of yourself. Love yourself. Own your preciousness. Set good boundaries. Make sure your environment is a reflection of your value. And if it's not, get people out of the way who don't see you as precious, and then see what happens.
And that's all for the questions right now.
All right. Next week we have Gayla Baker and Sandra Lee will be here for the Quantum Alignment Show. They're going to be talking about 5th line profiles. So all you 2-5s, 5-1s, you're going to be talking about what does it mean to be a 5th line profile. You all probably have 5 lines, 5th lines in your chart somewhere, so come and learn from these 2 5th line profiles about what does it mean to be a 5th line. I will be off for a couple of weeks. I will be leading a retreat in Ojo Caliente, New Mexico, and I'm actually going to be hanging out with my pregnant daughter to rub some major baby belly so I can, I don't know, I just want to go see my baby and my baby's baby. So anyway, you all have a great spring break. Take good care of yourselves. Thank you, Cindy, as always. Stay precious. Be precious. Own your preciousness. Stand in your value because you deserve it. Thank you. Bye. Have a great weekend.